We're not here to make up the numbers, we're here to compete as well. This squad, with the power they have on their day, they can do anything they want.
Hello, welcome back to the Glassgirls Network with me, Jonathan. This one's going to be in two parts, so I've got Kieran Jones behind the camera as well, so Kieran will be jumping on in my place shortly. Today we welcome back Mike Harris. How are you keeping, Mike?
Not bad, thanks, not bad. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you, very well.
Good.
So, first of all, Mike, I just want to say a bit of a thank you. You've always supported me and the channel and new fans who've been at the ground, and I really appreciate the time that you spent with the fans and speaking to me almost every day about something or another. So just on a personal note and on behalf of the channel that this is going to go out on, just a massive thank you, and hopefully you've enjoyed a bit of that experience as well.
Yeah, no, thank you, and thank you for everybody who's done so much, yourself and Kieran and all the guys who've done so much for the club and for everything we've built over the last 5 years. You're a massive part of it, and the players and certainly the staff will get plaudits, but I think sometimes it goes forgotten how important you guys are and everything you do, and you've made the club as as much of a success as everybody else. So just thank you for everything you've done over the last 5 years.
Thank you, it's been a pleasure. Got a few questions then, so a few have been sent in to us. I want to go through a bit of a timeline for the first half of the show from the season. So when you kind of took over, it was a bit of a shaky start, coming off the back of a couple of defeats and that draw away to Halifax, which seemed like a negative result back then, but obviously looking back, it was actually quite a good result in my opinion. Took over from Andy Fisher, who was a bit of a club legend, as I'm sure he always will be. What was kind of going through your mind when you kind of thought, hang about, I might be asked to take this position? What was going through your mind?
I think a lot of things happened very quickly in that time. Andy was very open about the fact that he'd been finding it difficult. He mentions well that he handed in his notice in pre-season, so we knew he was finding it tough. But at the same point, it doesn't stop the fact that we've operated one way for 4 and a bit years, and so to kind of change things at probably the most difficult point we'd ever been in as a club. You know, we were 5 games in and looking almost a dead cert for a very difficult season. So at that point, obviously my mind was on, you know, we set ourselves a goal. What do we need to do as a team and as a club to hit that goal now that we've got this massive kind of bump in the road? You know, we had to make a lot of very quick, very difficult decisions at that point, but everything was done in mind of, well, what would be best for the girls. And I spoke to Bully and spoke to a lot of other people, and it certainly, you know, initially didn't even cross my mind. It was like, right, who's next? You know, who we're gonna bring in? Who's gonna contribute? I think a lot of people very quick to say, actually, you know, it should be you, don't you? And I didn't. And I don't think of things that way. I was very happy doing what I was doing. I had a great role within the club, but actually, having spoke to a few people, I think it was the right thing to do, to step in and to take on the additional responsibilities. And it was a bit of a tipping point with the group as well, because I think everyone was returning from injury, and you know, you got into this place where actually we picked up a squad of 25 players and we had to make some big decisions at the time. So it was a tricky period, but I think no regrets about the decision at all. Enjoyed the stint massively, achieved everything we said we'd do. So yeah, been a fun season.
I agree. I think I remember when it came out and that you was going to be interim manager, I think a lot of us hoped that it was going to be you taking over at least until the end of the season, because I think one thing that the fans needed at that time was a bit of reassurance and a bit of stability. And I think with you just like kind of falling into that position, even though I know that you never really expressed yourself to be the manager, I still think that it was kind of comforting to the fans. So I kind of agree with that, like off the field as well. I mean, you could have just kind of not took it easy, because that's not in your nature, but you could have kind of just like casted out the season and stuck with a few of the players that you knew, or you know, just carried on basically, just with Tash as your number 2. But you made quite a few decisions early doors. What made you go down that route?
I think it's what we've done for the last 5 years. I don't hold any of the teams that we've had at the club in the last 5 years on a pedestal. So the team that supported us, you know, the team that we worked with in our very first year in Tier 6, for me, were just as important as the team we've had this year. They're very different teams, and they're very, very different goals and very different expectations. But I think it's really important that we don't place one group above any of the others for the last 5 years, because, in doing so, you lessen the kind of the efforts of those girls who similarly trained twice a week, similarly gave up so much to play football, had a lot of success for this football club, and then moved on when the time was right for them or us. So, I don't think if we'd have coasted at any point, we could have coasted last season and sat in tier 4. We could have coasted the season before, but I think if that notion would have even entered our heads, Sutton were good enough to punish that season, and had we not been all in on just carrying on progressing, we would never have got to tier 4. And it's credit to how good Sutton were that we had to be that good. But the moment we'd have doubted ourselves and gone, actually, this is a bit hard, let's stop now, you never get any of the success. You don't get the National League trophies. So.
Yeah, thoroughly agree. Thankfully, you backed up those decisions by gaining 14 points on top of the point that you already had. So that was like 15 points in the first half of the season. Was it almost like too good to be true? You must have felt really good about how things were going at that time.
I don't think anybody expected it. I think there was a time where we were something like 4th in the form table in the league, which is not the place we were supposed to be in a lot of people's minds. We were the team that was supposed to be at the bottom, struggling to find that first win. But at the same point, we'd done everything right. We worked really hard in pre-season. We made difficult choices when we needed to. After Randy went, and we went with what had kind of been so successful for us over the last 5 years, and we were rewarded again. That period we were superb, and I think there was a time where, if we'd have beaten, I think it was Derby or Halifax, we'd have gone 4th in the league. So I look at that time and think, actually, it was amazing. And the funny thing is we haven't changed anything in terms of the way we approach the game, the way we've done certain things. Yes, personnel had changed and we set up a little bit differently, but everything we've done then is everything we've done for the last 9 games of the season, which is everything we've done over years and years on end. So it's been a long-term process, and what was a very difficult change in Andy leaving was made very easy, or is as easy as possible, by just keeping so much else the same. Because so much else was the same, because that massive thing happened, we could give people that consistency, and what could have been a massive issue and essentially would have set us on a slippery slope, we managed to kind of hold everything together and turn it into actually points and solidifying our place in the league probably by February.
Yeah, thoroughly agree with that, absolutely. Second half of the season, it was a bit of a weird one, because obviously we played the same teams. However, our first 5 home games was against like the top 5 teams in the league. Halifax was the other team who was doing really well at that point. We had 3 away games against Derby, Stoke and Albion, which obviously aren't going to be easy. And then obviously Huddersfield, last game of the season. To me, I remember saying this to a group of other fans come Christmas and New Year, it was very possible that we could go on a streak where we could lose every one of those games based on merit. I don't think we should be winning some of those games. I think for me, looking back, it was probably only Albion where I actually thought, okay, we stand a chance here. And that was because of the 7-2 win at our end. Obviously, a lot of things can change since then. I guess, how would you describe that second half of the season?
Yeah, I think probably in the second half, when we took it over, we were in a good place where everybody was in good nick. Everybody was fresh into the league. We hadn't hit any massive injury crisis. In fact, we kind of come off the back of it. I remember by the time we got to Derby at home, we had something like 8 or 9 first team players injured. By the time we then got to Albion, we were fresh. We were in a good place as a group. We had 2021 in good fitness at the time. And we came with all sorts of confidence and flair, and we were brilliant that night. And the challenge at the back end of the season has been that depth and we haven't been able to cope with the demands of the league. But that's exactly what we expected. The consolidation period, the need to transition everything, rebuilding a tier 3 squad was our remit for the year. So I expected a period at some point. I think if you look at the fixture list again, like you said, it's a very challenging fixture list. I think it's incredibly sad that we played, I think something like 40% of our second half of the season in 14 days. And that is challenging for any group. We went through the ultimate gauntlet of Wolves, Forest, and Burnley in a week. But actually, like we said to the group all season, no excuses. When you play well, you're going to get rewarded, and there will be no excuses about the way that the opposition play. But when you play badly, i.e. the night down here against Wolves, no excuses. Pull your socks up. Let's play Forest on Sunday. And I think that mentality bore us some really good performances. And there were good days and bad days, but this is exactly what we expected from the league. So it's been a great challenge, and I think the girls and the staff and everybody's done brilliantly to cope with it, and the fans have been so supportive throughout, so it's made it a lot of fun.
It was a great honour and pleasure to watch all these teams come to Woodmore Ground. It says like 3 Premier League back clubs in the space of a week. Newcastle just before that as well. Just off script a little bit there, but I can't not go through this video and not mention all the hard work that we've put in since Tier 6. The whole point of that was to play and have occasions like this. I guess, was you ever let down by those games? Because to me, it was absolutely fantastic. We could have probably done a little bit more, maybe in the build up to the games, to try and maybe get them in the newspaper a bit more or on the radio. But to me, they lived up to expectations for me.
Yeah, I think it's really challenging. I've said before in interviews that I was disappointed that those 3 really high-profile games were all within a week of each other. I think commercially and marketing-wise, I think that makes it very difficult. It's already tough, but I think it makes it more difficult because if you can build those games up and then actually you've got another month before the next one and we're going to start to build up, I think that would have been the key to it. I think the trouble is because I think the awareness around some of the players that are down here and some of the players that have been down here during that month is so important. And to know that England under-19s and England under-21s and former Super League footballers have been down here playing against our girls is astonishing. And I wish we could share more of that story. I think that's so important, to share that Abby Cowie, has played in an England setup, has been involved in Birmingham City. She will have a brilliant career as a footballer that will definitely take her back into the Championship and the Super League at some point. She was down here playing football against Stourbridge, and I think this is exactly what the club kind of vision was 5 or 6 years ago, is actually the women can get to a point where we could be playing against these teams, and here we are.
The FA Cup draw, Mike, against Wolves, of all the teams we could have we drew Wolves away. Obviously, not in anyone's control, but how much of impact do you think that draw made on the women's section this season, and maybe going into next season as well?
I think it's difficult to say. Here's what I've said to everybody is that the teams that got the furthest in the FA Cup, the teams who have invested, incredibly well into their sections, and I think that is brilliant, and I will never ever have a bad word to say. I remember speaking to another manager he was in Tier 4 at the time of his team, and had a great FA Cup run that year, and I said, what a brilliant run, well done to you guys. And he goes, it's not well done, we got lucky. We had great draws in that round, and I thought that's so humble of him to say that, because you can get very difficult draws in the competition. I think it was last year where Wolves pulled Forest and one of them went out immediately because of the draw, and that is the nature of the competition. I think it's so tricky in the women's game because that money means so much to clubs that it can have those kind of effects. Camden Court had a great cup run this year, and their girls won't be paying subs for the next 3 years. If they didn't have that run, those girls would be paying that subs, and it would have an impact. So there is a natural impact. But at the same point, if you stick in £1 million, into your squad, and you get to the 5th round of the FA Cup and you win £200,000 out of that, you're still on a deficit of £800,000. So there's an opportunity cost there as well. And you hope for a good run of draws, and you hope that you can potentially end up in the 3rd or 4th round with a big name. But it wasn't our year this year, and we've had three or four brilliant FA Cup runs. It was probably time for somebody else to have a go. But no, saying that, whilst it was difficult and disappointing, it's football. It's football.
Huddersfield last game of the season, so this video might go out after that game goes out. A loss would see us still 4 points from safety, a win would see us 10 points from safety, which would be absolutely amazing. What's the mindset like in the camp now and going into that game with everyone knowing it's your last game? fantastic.
Yeah, I think everybody knows it's a tricky situation. I am so glad we're safe. I'm so glad we're in such a great place, so we can go up there and not feel the pressure. I don't want a pity party. This is not what we're here to do. I have not stayed to lick wounds for the next X amount of time. We are here to celebrate the last 5 years. We set ourselves a goal at the start of the season. We worked hard and we achieved it, and that for me is the most important thing. And for every club I've been at over the last 15, 16, 17 years I've been coaching, it's always been about what's the goal, what have we worked hard to achieve. And I've been lucky in the last 6 years. That's been about winning leagues, and I've had the fortune to have won a lot of trophies over the last 6 years. This year was different. It was about staying in the league and rebuilding after a really difficult transition, stepping into a difficult league with lots of stuff changing. So we smashed everything we set out to do. The pathway, we smashed everything we set out to do again, and I just want a big celebration, a great send off. I want to reminisce, be nostalgic about the last 5 years, and then we'll move on to whatever is next.
One last question from me before I hand over to Kieran, and you've kind of led into it here. During this golden era, we're known to be the team who celebrates our success and happiness. How important is it for the team to continue that over the next couple of weeks before focusing on their future football?
It's the most important, because it's not just about the players, it's not just about the staff, it's about everybody who's contributed to this, and not just over this year, over the last 5 years. And the girls have done such a brilliant job of battling away. And you know what, even when we were on that run towards the end of the season where we were playing these brilliant outfits and struggling to find results, like, they dug in and they stuck together, and I couldn't praise them enough for that 4 days between Wolves and Nottingham Forest, where they then turned out against Forest and put on a great show and only lost 2-0. I can't praise them enough, so they have to enjoy it, because although they've seen the tricky side of football and the difficult side of football in everything that's gone on, actually at the same point, you work so hard to get to this point. Don't let anything or anybody spoil that for you. Let's go and have a great send-off with the fans and with people like yourselves who worked so hard to bring the club and put it in this place.
Thank you very much, Mike. It's been absolutely a pleasure this season, and of course the last 3 or 4 years following you, so all the best.
Pleasure.
And I'll hand over to Kieran.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, Mike, second half of the little video we've got here, we're going to be talking a bit more about the future, I suppose. But firstly, looking into the past, I suppose the last 5 years has been a real roller coaster, a real journey. And you've built it up to this place where we are now, safe in Tier 3 for this season. Do you sort of wish that you had an opportunity to take it on more, see where the future could go, and what do you think potentially that future could look like?
Difficult to say. I've never been I don't like being I wish I'd done this and I wish I'd done that, because you end up going down a bit of a pit, don't you? Like, we had amazing ambitions for next season and lots of stuff that we wanted to do, and we thought about kind of what that would look like and how the squad would shape up and how we'd learn the lessons this year and kick on. But I have no regrets, and I'm very happy kind of with the way that we're leaving things. It's a great send off. It's nice to finish the season with the girls and do all of this properly, because I'd never want anybody or anything to tarnish the last 5 years, and I think that's so important. And even in 10 years' time, I want potentially people to look back at this year and go, you know what, it was a brilliant era for the club, and they left on good terms, no bridges burnt, and we'll crack on and have some brilliant memories, which is what it was all about.
Yeah, and then looking towards next season, I suppose, obviously going to be a lot of change, obviously new manager and presumably players coming in and out. How do you see, with what we've currently got going on, how do you see that going next season? Obviously a lot more challenges, you would have thought, a lot more teams putting in investment. How does it look, do you think, for Stourbridge next season?
Listen, I don't know. Nobody knows. I think it's one of those things where we will find out over time. What we thought we were stepping into Tier 3 was very different to what it actually was. The amount of investment that went in last summer was huge, and there was massive ripple effects, and the goalposts were quickly moved from what Tier 3 used to be to the new Tier 3. I genuinely wish the best for whoever comes in next. I would hate to see all of this hard work go to waste. I'd hate to see a brilliant project, fall apart, and I don't think it will at all. I think there are, a lot of good people to put in a lot of good time, and I would, you don't want to see it fall apart and fail. And I just, I just wish the club and everybody all of the best with whatever is next, and I'm really appreciative of the 5 years that we've had. Tier 3 will be Tier 3 next year, and it'll be difficult and tricky, but all the best to everybody involved, and I hope you enjoy it as much as we have this year.
Looking sort of away from the first team as well, sort of things going on outside of football, perhaps like the marketing, the media side, as well as stuff like the pathway and everything going on outside of the first team. Again, how do you sort of see that moving in the future?
Yeah, marketing and commercial is going to be really important for the club. You've got a great opportunity here to really build something so special. And I think for those of us who've been around it for the last 5 years, I think we see the potential, and I think you can see the opportunity here. I hope that the club finds a way to make that work, and to really kind of shine a light on everything, because you've got a great story here. You talk about the Wrexham story, for example. They've had 2 promotions, and look at the story that's come off the back of that. We had 3, back to back to back. So there's an amazing story here. There's a brilliant opportunity here, and to continue the good work that you guys have done from a marketing point of view, and just sharing that story is so important. The pathway will always be brilliant. If you give good young players, good coaching, good facilities, you've seen the quality of players that we've attracted, the quality of players that have come through the system. You've seen the success that they've had this season. The Devs have won their league. The Resis have finished in the top half as opposed to the bottom 3. So it's been a brilliant year, and it has all of the legs to carry on going in that direction, with the right guidance and the right support. And I hope that's all in place for them next year, because the girls are fantastic, and they deserve the world.
Obviously, Huddersfield this weekend, your last game, but also Tash's last game. How sort of valuable has she been to what we've seen out there this season?
Massive. I think there's so many people who are so important to this club. I count yourselves. Rich Clark is instrumental. I think about the contribution that Andy Bullingham has made. I think about the contribution that Anthony has made as a person to this club, and he's given us a real niche at times, and he's been a massive part of the atmosphere here. But Tash has come in and been absolutely wonderful, and doesn't feel like she's been here for a year. It feels like she's been here forever. I think having not only just a wonderfully empathetic member of staff, somebody who is, just wonderful with the girls and understands the level, because she's played it, not even understanding from a coaching point of view where she's good, but as somebody that the players can go to and go, she was a player at this tier, this is really helpful for them, is so important. And she's put the club on the map in lots of other ways too, with some of the fundraising that we've done, with some of the kind of the really important points that she's pushed around player care in women's football. And I think she's changed a lot of people's perspectives as a club as to who they need inside their staffing groups. It's not just coaches anymore. What does your player care look like? And I think that's really important. She's going to have a wonderful career, a really wonderful career in football, and she will be in it as long as she wants to be. It's been tough for everybody. Tash has dealt with it, in the best way, the best way possible, and she's been there for the girls as much as she's had time to process this herself, and I think that's been so important. And I will happily put on credit to say that she has been instrumental in everything that we've done and the way we approach things this year. And it's felt like a real partnership. Take titles away, we've worked together day in, day out to put this group and put this team in the best position possible, and give them everything that we can and that they deserve, so they can go out there and be the best they can be.
Absolutely. Looking towards your summer, obviously it's very different to what it usually is. What are your plans for this summer? What's happening with Mike Harris?
Going away. All I would say is that I will be in touch with everybody. I want to stay in touch with everybody at the club. Whatever is next is whatever is next. There's nothing to announce at the moment. So, you know, the summer is young. There's lots to go on. I think the Midlands is going to change dramatically. And just looking forward to whatever's next now, the next part of the journey. You know, when I left Stoke, I knew that I was going to miss the girls there and I was going to miss the club. And you worry and you go, oh, do you know what is next actually? What is it going to look like? But from out that came Stourbridge. So, you know, the hope is that the next project that I walk into in the summer is as enjoyable as this has been. And I want to stay in touch with absolutely everybody. And I'm grateful to fans and players who've been a part of that. And I'm excited to meet whatever is next, to be at that group and get my teeth into that project there.
Definitely, and yeah, like you say, whatever that project is, I'm sure it'll be very, very interesting to watch. Obviously, you've had a lot of experience, obviously coming through multiple different leagues, being in Tier 3 this season. What would you say are some of your biggest sort of lessons almost that you've learned from your time at Stourbridge that you'll then take into your next working, whatever that might be?
I think I've always tried to do things in a way that makes sense for the club, makes sense for the players. It's really nice sitting here at this point knowing I did everything I could for the right reasons. You know, every single decision, every single moment was built out of trying to do what was best for the club and for everybody. And I feel great sat here now knowing that after 5 years I've done everything I can. You know, if you'd have told me 5 years ago that you were going to go from 6-3, win multiple FA Cup games, League Cups, County Cup finals, all of that, you know, I'd have ripped my arm off and thrown it at you. So, you know, I have absolutely no regrets. And I would say to anybody doing anything in management or coaching or playing, just absolutely, if you get to this point and you're sat there and you're moving on in the summer, just know that you've done the best you can and make sure you put yourself in that place, because it feels a lot easier doing it, knowing that I've given everything I can to the club and put the club in the best possible position that I could do. So.
Absolutely. My final sort of question here. Speaking a bit about some of your favourite memories. Obviously, you know, there's the league titles, there's the FA Cup games. Is there anything sort of potentially a bit niche that people might not be fully aware of that stands with you?
It's a great question. I think I've had some really good chats with people over the last few weeks about kind of how to process everything and what moving on looks like and how to best cope with everything. I think the biggest thing for me is that every single season has brought a new brand of memories, and just when you think we couldn't climb any higher, out comes an unbelievable result. And I remember I think it was 4 years ago, we won 3 games in the FA Cup and we pulled Worcester City in the 4th round, and Bully said to me, he goes, Mike, just give me one more miracle, will you? One more little miracle. And we beat them, and then we played Crusaders, and he asked for one more miracle, and then we beat Crusaders, and we got to Wolves, and he asked for another miracle, but he wasn't getting that one. But it felt like every season we were just sat there producing miracles, and I don't want to put one over a pedestal because all of those days felt amazing, and just the memories have been wonderful. But the most important bit has been the people the whole way through, like just enjoying those moments with those people. Even when things have been hard this season, you know, getting on the coach with good people has been very easy. Getting back on the training ground has been easy. And I said to the girls in February that we didn't build the change room for the moments where we'd won 14 points in 6 or 7 games. We built it for when things got hard. And actually, when it has been tough and when it has been hard to come by points, they've been brilliant. And that's so important. And the people at this club have driven it to a wonderful place. So I wish them all the best for the future, wherever that is, be that here or somewhere else. I wish you all, and want to say a huge thank you to the fans and to everybody who supported us through thick and thin. And I just wish you all best for the future. And I hope that we continue to bump into each other, be it down here at some point, potentially on opposite ends of the dugouts, who knows, but I will certainly be back down here to carry on, you know, seeing and spending time with good people and reminiscing and being that guy in the bar who says, well, when I was here, we did that. But just want to enjoy it, and I'm so grateful to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And as John said in the first half, I want to thank you so much for all the memories you've given us over the past 5 years or so, and everything that you've given us as fans and as people that are in the club as well. It's absolutely massive. You made a magical period with the club, and yeah, just want to say a massive thank you again.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate
Top
that.
man. Top man.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, and there we go. Make sure you're liking and subscribing on the Glassgirls network. And that's it from Mike Harris. Mike, any final words to end off with?
No, thank you everyone. Good luck. All the best. See you soon.
There we go.